Hi! Today I've gathered for you the 4 creepiest stories from the internet that will give you chills. Let's go!
I still don't understand how I survived that night. I'm literally shaking as I type this because I can't explain what happened. And maybe someone here can. 2 weeks ago, I was coming home late from a nearby city. I'm a student and sometimes do warehouse shifts for extra cash. My bus was late, so I got off near the highway and decided to cut through a wooded shortcut I've walked dozens of times before. But that night, everything felt wrong. Darker, quieter, like someone had turned the world's volume down. After about a mile, I noticed the path leading somewhere else. Instead of the usual turn, there was an old cracked asphalt road, overgrown with weeds. I didn't remember any road there, but I figured it might lead back to the main road, so I kept walking. 10 minutes later, buildings appeared. At first, I thought it was an abandoned factory, but as I got closer, I realized it was a hospital. A tall fence topped with barbed wire, dead windows, some broken, some boarded up. A rusted sign read, "Psychiatric hospital number 12. No entry. Only thing is, we've never had a psychiatric hospital anywhere near my town. I would know." I pulled out my phone. Signal bars were full, but no data. Total dead zone. I didn't want to use my flashlight, but curiosity won. I circled the fence, found a hole in the wire mesh, and slipped through. The smell hit me immediately. Damp concrete, rust, and something sweet, almost like blood. Inside, it looked as if staff had left just yesterday. A gurney stood in the hallway. Pills were scattered across the floor. Logbooks dated 1986, 1991, 2003. And the last entry, 2022. I froze. On the walls hung staff photos. The faces were blurred, smeared, like someone had deliberately erased them. In one ward, beds lined up neatly. Some still had clean sheets. On one bed sat a doll in a patient's gown, glassy eyes fixed on the door. That's when I first felt it. The sense of being watched. Not a sound, just a weight on my back. I walked faster, hoping to find another exit. Then a noise. A click. A light at the end of the corridor flicked on. I froze. No one there, but the light stayed on. "Hello? Anyone?" I called. Silence. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, uneven, coming toward me. I ducked into the nearest room and shut the door. It was some kind of treatment room. On the wall, a clock ticked backward. On the table lay a patient's file. My name, my address, today's date. I felt sure I wouldn't leave alive. The footsteps stopped right outside. I heard breathing. I grabbed a chair and moved to the window. The window, which had been closed a moment ago, was now wide open. I jumped. I don't know how I didn't break my legs. I ran across the courtyard, through the hole in the fence, and bolted back onto the path. A second later, I was back in the woods. Behind me, no hospital, no road, just trees. My phone's data came back. GPS showed me on the normal trail. I made it home and told no one. The next day, I brought a friend. The path was there, but no road, no hospital, just old pine forest. I still have that patient file. The paper's yellowed, the stamp faded, but my name is clear. I don't know what it means. If anyone has ever heard of psychiatric hospital number 12 inches in this region, please tell me. I can't be the only one who's been there. I work as a geologist and often leave on long expeditions. This job has taught me to sleep in the rain, endure the cold, and also to notice strange things in the most ordinary places. This time, we were sent to a forested region where there was no signal at all. We set up camp, measured the soil, took samples, the usual routine. By evening, the wind had died down and the silence became suspiciously deep. I decided to walk the trail to the lake to clear my head. Twilight quickly slipped into darkness, and the forest that had seemed familiar now felt endless, as if its walls had closed in around me. Every rustle behind me sounded louder than it should. When I turned back, I noticed a light between the trees, a dim yellow glow like from old lamps. At first I thought it was someone's house, but the closer I got, the stronger the chill became, as though I were walking not toward shelter, but toward something forgotten. Before me stood an entire building, a 3-story structure, gray, its windows shattered, yet glowing from within. Above the door hung a sign, Psychiatric clinic number 17. I knew the area's map. There were no hospitals here and never had been. Even on the old maps we'd studied before the trip, this place was marked only as a ravine. The door stood ajar, as if waiting for me. I stepped inside and the air changed. It smelled of chlorine and medicine, like a real hospital. The walls were spotless, the floor gleamed, the lamps worked, but there were no people. Even the air felt freshly changed, as if the rooms had just been aired out. I walked down the corridor. Every door opened into identical wards. Some held empty beds. In others stood nightstands with glass ampules on them. In one room, a medical file lay on a table. I picked it up and froze. My name was on the cover. Inside were photographs of me taken only a few days earlier, along with notes about examinations I'd never undergone. Somewhere beyond the wall came the sound of children laughing, at first faint, then louder, echoing as if they were running through the halls. I hurried back, but the corridor had become longer than before, as though it had stretched. The lamps began flickering. A shadow moved along the wall, though I stood perfectly still. The smell of chlorine shifted into something sweet and cloying, like the scent of old toys. Suddenly, a figure appeared ahead, tall, thin, with an empty face as if sketched in pencil. It held a stuffed rabbit in its hands and stared at me. When I blinked, the rabbit was already sitting on the floor, and the figure had moved several steps closer, soundless. I don't remember how I ran out of the building. I only recall the doors slamming behind me, and the forest outside looking completely different, the pines thicker, the trail gone. I ran until I saw the pale strip of water. I woke at dawn on the lake shore. The building was gone, leaving only old stone steps leading nowhere, as if the foundation of something long destroyed. My phone was dead. That evening, back home, I found the same stuffed rabbit neatly placed by my door. Since then, every night I dream of that corridor, and sometimes outside my window, a yellow light flickers as if the lamps are still burning there. At times I feel someone standing behind the door, and something soft, plush, brushes it from the inside. I don't know what it was, but a place that shouldn't exist clearly remembered me and doesn't seem to want to let me go. I was walking along a country road late at night. The bus had broken down 20 kilometers from the city, and it was still a long way home. My phone showed a single bar of signal and was draining fast. The moon shone dimly, barely lighting the road, while in the distance the forest whispered as if the trees were talking. I turned onto an old path, hoping to cut the distance. The trees arched overhead, the air thick and damp, carrying the smell of rot and moss. Every step cracked twigs beneath my feet, even though the ground was soft and wet. After a few minutes, I saw lights ahead, yellow, like kerosene lamps. At first, I thought it might be a village, but the closer I got, the stranger it became. The ground beneath me turned to tiles, and benches appeared along the sides. Suddenly, the forest opened, and I stepped onto a square that shouldn't exist. A circular plaza with lampposts, benches, and a glass pavilion resembling a bus stop. On the sign hung the words, "Route 0, end of the line, 0 minutes." The air felt unnaturally still. Inside the pavilion were rows of chairs like a waiting room. Everything looked new and clean, yet empty. Water dripped from the ceiling in rhythm with a flickering lamp. On the wall hung an old clock with no hands, and next to it was a map. No names, just lines and arrows leading nowhere. I sat on a bench. Cold seeped into me, as if it had just been outside in frost. On the floor lay a ticket, gray without a stamp, dated today, matching my watch. Its edges were damp, the letters uneven, as if written underwater. Far off came the low rumble of an approaching train or bus, muffled as if through water. The lamplight dimmed. A man entered the pavilion, tall and thin, face hidden under a hood. In his hands was a suitcase, water dripping onto the floor. He sat across from me, raising his head slowly. Where his eyes should have been, there was nothing. My heart raced, every sound amplified. I bolted for the exit, but the plaza stretched ahead, lampposts receding. Each step felt like wading through thick air, a bluish mist forming around me. The rumble grew louder, and behind me, for a moment, the silhouette of a black bus flashed. Empty seats, yet it felt like someone waited. I stumbled back into the forest and found myself on the country road again. My phone fell, screen dead, and the low rumble lingered. I reached the city by dawn, each tree familiar yet warped, as if the place I'd passed left its mark. At home on the kitchen table lay the gray ticket. Now it bore a stamp. End of the line. Arrived. Impossible, but real. Since then, every night when the wind howls, I hear the low rumble and see a strip of yellow light beneath the door, as if the bus is still looking for me. Sometimes I wake and hear water dripping somewhere, just like the suitcase in the pavilion. Route Zero does not end until it finds you.